Lesson 11a, slope of a line. So the slope describes how steep a line is. And it is found by using the rise over the run instructions or formula, and we'll look at what that is. So let's first start with this line right here. And what you want to do in finding slope is you want to identify places on the line where the line exactly crosses one of the cross hatchings in the graph. That's going to be easy to work with. So for example, this would be a good point to choose because it is right where it crosses right at an exact point on our graph. This is on the line, but would not be a good point to choose because it's hard to tell exactly what those coordinates are. So I'm not going to choose that line, that point. So another point that would be good would be this one perhaps, or this one. Those both cross exact cross hatches in the graph. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out from one point to the other, how much do we have to rise and how much do we have to run? All right, to get from this point right here, I have to, and now to get to the other point, I'm only allowed to travel straight up and down or straight back and forth. So I'm going to have to rise, go up 1, 2, 3 steps. So I'm rising 3 and running 2. So the slope of this line is 3/2. Now I might have instead decided to do the slope between these 2 points. Let's see how that compares. So here to get from this point, I have to rise 6 and run 4. Now I'm rising in the positive direction, so it's positive 6 in the positive y direction. I'm running in the positive x direction, so that's positive 4. Notice that 6/4 I can simplify. I can simplify this fraction so that it becomes 3/2. So it doesn't matter which 2 points you use to find the slope. If you're doing your math right, you should get the same slope between any 2 points on a line. And so this is a line with a positive slope. So notice here we have, the sign is positive, and it slants upward from left to right. So if we're reading our graph from left to right, if we're trying to cross over to the right side of our graph and we hit our line, and we're not allowed to cross our line, but we still want to get to this side of the graph, we're going to have to go uphill to get to our destination, this side of the graph. So that's an uphill sloping line, and those lines are positive slopes. Let's try this one here. So this one they've already identified for us 2 points. And we're going to figure out how much we have to rise. All right, from this first point, I have to rise in the negative direction. I actually have to dip down. So how many do I have to rise? It looks like -6 to here, and then I got to run, but I'm running in the positive direction, 2. So that equals -3. Now I could also go from this point down here to the other point. So in here I would rise +6. So I'm going 6 in the positive direction, but now I'm running in the negative x direction. And 6 divided by -2 is also -3. So this is a slope of -3. It's a whole number, so slopes don't always get represented as fractions. And this is a negative slope. And if we're reading our graph from left to right, and we're trying to get to this side of our little graph, and we hit our line and we're not allowed to cross it, we're going to find ourselves going downhill when we get to this side of the graph. So negative sloping lines have a downward slope. Okay, what about this line right here? What kind of slope do we have? Well, let's choose 2 points on the line. Let's say this point and this point. To get from one to the other, I have to rise 0 and run 1, 2, 3. 0 divided by 3 is 0. So this has a slope of 0. And so a line with the slope of 0 is a horizontal line. This is a horizontal line. You can think of the horizon, like if you look out at the ocean, it's horizontal. What about when we have a vertical line? Let's find the slope between these 2 points. Here we have rise of 3 and a run of 0. No run at all. Now this, if you try to put this in your calculator, it will give you an error signal. You're not allowed to have 0 in the bottom of a fraction because 0 divided into any number is undefined. We can't define how many zeros fit in a number. So we would actually call this slope undefined. It is a vertical line, undefined slope, and it's a vertical line, infinitely steep. All right, finding the formula of the slope between 2 points. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2, and we have a formula for it. So sometimes when you want to find slope, it's not convenient. You're not given a graph, and it would be time-consuming to graph these 2 points on a line. I can imagine over -7, down 16, somewhere over here, over 11, down -1. So it's a graph that looks something like this, but I'd have a hard time counting rise and run with my little sketch. So in this case, we would use our formula. So it's helpful if you actually label the point. So that's going to be x. This is at point number 1 is going to have x1 and y1 are going to be its coordinates. Point 2, x2 and y2. All right, so let's plug that into our formula. The slope is going to be y2 minus y1. So that means it's going to be this value minus that value. So -1, this is where it gets tricky, minus -16. The bottom of my fraction is going to be, I have to do x2, I have to go the same direction in terms of subtracting. I have to go 11 minus -7. Okay, so the top is going to be -1. Now remember, when I have minus a negative number, those two negatives next to each other become plus. We also have minus a negative number here, so the bottom is going to become 11 plus 7. So here that's 15 over 18, and that can be simplified. They're both divisible by 3. So that becomes a slope of 5/6. Okay. Now let's try this one. So you pause the video and find that on your own. I'm again going to label these. This is point 1, so that's going to be x1, y1, x2, y2. Plug it into the formula. So the top of my fraction is going to be y2 minus y1. The y's are on the top. That makes sense because slope is rise over run, and rise is talking about the difference in the vertical, in the y part of the points. 2 minus -4. And 15 minus 18. So 2 minus -4, you have two negative signs right next to each other, right? That's going to become 2 plus 4. Messy. 2 plus 4, and the bottom is going to become 15 minus 18 is -3. So that top is 6 over -3. A positive divided by negative is a negative. It's going to be -2, a slope of -2. Okay, and we'll save this page for the next video.